actually in my living room, not in my office, because I've got the fireplace going because it's cold. And it's even that cold according to the temperature. And I got my Christmas balls on because, guys, like next week, it's like really, really, like, yeah, we're really close to Christmas, right? So I'm like, I can't believe how little time we have. And I'm super excited to be talking to you guys about emotional management tonight. And that's a pretty broad topic, right? Like emotional management. That encompasses so many things. It could be something that you and I and the rest of the gang here sit and talk about for the next month or year, and we still wouldn't cover everything. But I just kind of, you know, whenever I'm going to be speaking to people, I just sort of think about what I'm feeling like I should say, and then I go from there. And then hopefully it'll be something that you can learn from. So I've been really lucky in the last year. I have done a lot of work with the PSI seminars, and it's a personal self-improvement program that really helps you look inward. You know, in life, like with Mary Kay, I joined it and I thought, oh, this is going to be such a great opportunity because I'm going to get to learn a lot about makeup again, right? And really, that's what I thought I was signing up for. I thought, like, well, first I thought I was signing up for 50% off in a cool starter kit, let's be honest. But when I actually started like doing this like for a business sort of thing, I thought this would be cool because I was a ponytail and sweatpants girl, like I've mentioned before. And I thought this would be a cool way for me to learn stuff about makeup, that sort of thing. I was absolutely surprised. I remember the first seminar I went to, and I was expecting it to be like 3 days of learning about how to apply makeup and ingredients and all that stuff. And we talked very little about product. And it really surprised me because I thought that's what this business was about. And it absolutely is. But you know what? It's the small part of the business because that's all stuff we can learn. And I find the people that are really movers and shakers in our business are those that do a lot of personal growth and do a lot of reading and do a lot of headspace stuff, right? And so emotional management is a huge part of that. And it's an essential part. When I started Mary Kay, I like I had mentioned to you guys last time I talked that I had all like little kids, pregnant, all that sort of stuff in a very different phase of life. And I just worked hard when I could because, you know, whatever the kids allowed. And then I moved up fast and I did great things and I, you know, broke my own belief barriers in a lot of places. And then it just sort of got to a spot at one point where I sort of had to take a look because it kind of plateaued, right? And I kind of had some things going on and it was a time when I had to work on me more than I worked on learning specifics about business, if that makes sense, or the specifics about Mary Kay. So I wanted to talk to you tonight a little bit about emotional management in two different times of life. We have our high crisis times, because you've probably heard the saying that like life is just a series of crises, and it's not like everybody has stuff. And so there are two different ways to operate, and especially with your emotions when you're in high crisis time versus like low crisis times, I guess you want to call that. And so we're going to talk about the two different ways, and we're going to talk a little bit about the mindset that I've used in those different times to sort of be the best that I can be and still continue to build my business. So one of the things that I often hear is when people do have things happen, which we all do, no matter if or not, we're going to have things happen, right? Like we all know that, whether you work here or whether you work in a law office or whether you're a teacher or whether you're a doctor, we all have life happen. So in my early years, I used to think, oh, maybe this is a sign I shouldn't do. Whether I'm in Mary Kay or not, stuff's going to happen, right? So the one thing about Mary Kay is that we have a flexible life, and we have the ability to stop and do things and then work in other times instead, right? Not stop and not because that's not a good term. And so it's like, that's probably the best thing we can do is just figure things out. So one of the things that I often hear from people is that something big will happen. And I'm never, ever saying that you know, you shouldn't feel a certain way or you shouldn't do a certain thing, like, especially when it comes to high crisis things. But the stop and figure things out part that concerns me with people. And one of the things that I know for sure is that you will never regret the hard work you put in when life is going fairly smoothly, right? So when you have time and when it's not high crisis time for you, it's my recommendation that you bust it out as much as you can. And stuff happening here. Along with that goes making sure that when those high crisis times are happening, or before, or whenever you feel that, I like to call them God whispers because that's what I feel they are, but some people would rather use the term gut feeling depending on what you think and believe. But those kind of go hand in hand. And so one time in my life when I know that this really was something that I'm so grateful for is I was expecting our fourth baby. And I actually thought we were going to have 3 babies. And then, so the best thing that's ever going to happen to you is happening, and you didn't know it was coming. And so that was okay. You know, you get through that, you adjust. And then about my 6th month of pregnancy, all of a sudden I had this like, it wasn't a God whisper, it was a God kick me in the butt sort of feeling that I needed to double my unit size. Now, like before the baby came, I needed to double my unit size. This was in February. She was due in April. And it was, oh my gosh, I don't know why, but I really feel like I need to double my unit size. And so March came and, oh, ta-da, they had some sort of showcase special. And this was my first showcase special. I was a fairly new director. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I got on the phone that day and I phoned almost our entire team. And I was so excited about this. And I said, you know, I know that this is going to happen. And I know we are going to have our highest recruiting month ever. And we're going to double our unit size. Because I believe then we had 56 people on our team. And it was just this drive in me. It woke me up in the morning like, we need to double our unit size. It was like never a question what we were doing that month. We were doubling our unit size. And I had no idea why this was. I just assumed because I was having a baby, I was having my 4th baby. You never know what baby you're going to get, right? Sometimes you get those ones that are so good and they sleep and they do all those things. And then sometimes you don't get that kind. And this was going to be my 4th baby. This was also going to be the first time I did not get any paid benefits from the government because I was now self-employed, right? So I knew that I had to work. So what I did then is we worked, and guess how many people recruited that month? 56! Yay! We did it! It was awesome! And then I kept saying that through the whole pregnancy, now you don't come out now. You got to wait until this month is over because mom is working here. And on April 1st at midnight, I went into labor 3.5 weeks early. So I had a baby 3.5 weeks early, which was fine. I didn't really tell anybody. Facebook wasn't huge then. I didn't tell anybody. Customers would come to the door. New recruits would come for the ready, set, sell. And I would answer the door with the baby in my arms. And they're like, what are you doing? And I just said, well, I didn't want you to not come. So come see the baby. So that was kind of cool. And that was great. And it was good. And I thought, oh, that was really good. And then 3 weeks after I got home from having a baby, I got a really, really tough call. I was driving home from our group sweet spa night with our whole national area. And I was by the McDonald's on 51st night. I know exactly where I was, and the phone rang. So I pushed like to come through Bluetooth, and it was my mom, and she was literally screaming. And I'm like, what is going on? And I found out in that moment that my nephew, who was exactly 4 weeks older than my daughter, had died. My sister went into nursing before she went to bed, and he was gone. So they said SIDS, and oh my, that really, really, yeah, it stopped because, I mean, I had a 3.5-week-old baby, and you know, the hormones kind of that are still surging through your body. My sister, and she was wailing, and she lived 4 hours away, and I couldn't get there, and I didn't know what to do because I thought it was hers. All of that stuff. And so I took off. The next month I went to be with it's a hard time in our family. And I never once thought, what about work? I actually took off and went there for a week, and you would my unit size or I'm really not sure what would have happened, right? I don't know how much income would still have been coming in. You know, through all of that, our unit still earned a trip to Dallas because we had the increase in stars order sent us to go to Dallas. And so my mom was my top consultant. So her and I, you know, a couple months after we buried my nephew, and I out of this little baby, we took off to Dallas and then straight to Canada. And I think a lot of it was just living the blur. But that's what went. So I just tell you, when you can work and when things are kind of going, and especially when you get that feeling, that gut feeling or that God whisper, it's go time, you go, and you're obedient to that. And miracles truly happen in that time. So that was one of the things that, you know, you just feel like we get a warning sign, you know, and I don't say that to make you think that, oh, you know, if I try to be successful and people are going to die. That's not the case. That's going to happen regardless of whether you're working here or somewhere else, but just really being obedient. Another thing, that when you're going through really tough times like that, and if you're going through something really tough now, and I say this, you may have the tendency to want to tell me to shut up or give me a little slap upside the head if you were right here, but I know this to be true just from going through different things in life, and it's that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And that's so annoying, right? Like, even when I say that, oh, really? And I think that we don't really know the whole picture and the whole story of things until you don't really know the true picture story of things until everything has played out, sometimes weeks, months, years, decades later. And I think, though, what I truly know, and I think more especially since, you know, I've been through divorce about 4 years ago, and, you know, figuring out how to maneuver life during custody and all that sort of stuff. We sometimes don't know why this is happening right now. And I think you just get to a point where you just the process, trust that here for a reason, teach us something. Oh. You can just push your mute button, that'd be great. Okay. If we just know that it's going to teach us, awesome.
You can practice in a small space, even Mayella or Angie.
Just hit the bottom of the
like I've seen Stephanie do. You can stand here and do it. Left, punch, right, punch, left, punch.
Oh, there we go. Okay, awesome. Instead of why is this happening to me? One of the things I'm trying to say now when things kind of go down is that what am I learning about me through this? Right? Because in crisis and in times that are tough, your true you comes out. Your true mama bear, your true personality will come through to guide you through this time. And so what are you learning about you through this? And what are you learning about life and about all those with you? Relationships come and go. Friendships come and go. Situations come and go. Health goes up and down. All those things kind of happen. So what is this teaching you? I know that a funeral, a car accident actually brought me together with my now fiance. And it was a really, really tough time in his life. His sister and her husband and their 2 children were killed instantly when they got struck by a drunk driver coming home just after New Year's 4 years ago. And it actually brought us together in a sense, because I met him a year before that. I saw him for the second time at the funeral, and we had a conversation. And so then he heard that I was no longer married. He gave me a call. And I mean, if that accident wouldn't have happened, I'm not sure that we would be together now. And it's a really cool thing. But going through all of that, we can see now that that's one of the good things that came out of that, right? So we don't know what's happening through it. Sometimes, you know, going through tough stuff is where you learn how tough you really are, right? You can learn that, hey, man, I can handle a lot. And the more we go through, the better that comes. I actually just got a little thing the other night from our Christmas party. I'll actually grab it. I thought this was really cool. I'm just gonna spill water on the floor. It says the strongest hearts have the most scars. And I really believe that to be true, is we go through stuff and it makes us stronger. And another thing that it does is it really helps us be able to relate to other people. Because let's be honest, until you go through something, you really don't know what it's like, correct? And we think, oh, well, yeah, that would be tough. But we don't really know that emotional feeling until we go through it. And is it to say that we're going to experience absolutely everything in the whole world that everybody else does? No. But there's going to be people put in your path that you are there to make an impact with because of what you've gone through, right? And we don't really never know who that might be. And sometimes we never know the impact we have on people. But sometimes you learn a little while later, oh my gosh, you know, you connect with someone at a skincare class and you find out you've got, you know, something in common, or you've been through something that, you know, years ahead of that, and then now they can learn from you through that. So just, you know, kind of remembering that. I think one of the things that I also learned through high crisis times is that because we are a business where you make your own schedule, it's easy to just sort of stop working completely. And that never is a good thing, because, you know, when you land your plane, then you got to get all that momentum to get it back up in the air again. And we don't really want that to happen. And so I know that, I mean, I'm someone who believes very strongly that we're being led, you know, by God and all that sort of thing. And I know that when you are in times that are tough and you really feel like not, and you really feel like the justification to just sort of not do things is the highest. When you're obedient to what you should be doing and your responsibility as a Mary Kay consultant to your customers, to your team, all of that, when you still work in those times, I feel like you get doubly blessed. And I remember that, you know, through that time when I got home right after my sister lost her little guy, we got home and it was like, now what do I do? Because really what I want to do right now is I want to grab my 4 little babies and I want us to sit on the couch and I want to protect them all day and all night. And that's not going to do them well. And it's certainly not going to do me well. And it's certainly not a way to live life. And so I had to, even though I was afraid, you know, silly things, because I just did it anyway. And so at that time I started to think, okay, if I was working a job where someone else paid me and where someone else told me when to come and when to go home and when I could take holidays, would I still be in this place right now? Would I still be avoiding the desk or the phone or all that? Is this a reasonable amount of time now to move on and to continue? And if it's longer than the bereavement leave you would get at a regular job, right? It's probably time to sort of get back into things. Now, the beauty of this all is in Mary Kay, if we focus on IPAs and the most important income producing things we can do, really, how long does a workday actually last? Well, sometimes maybe an hour, right? So can I pull myself together for an hour, go do the things I need to do to know that I'm moving my business forward, to know that even in this really tough time, I'm doing what I need to do, short-term pain for long-term gain, and how is this going to pay off? And I bet you, if you track that activity at that time, I bet you with everything in me, if you track that activity at that time, you will find that those activities led you to some of the biggest successes of your entire career. And I think it's just God's way of tapping you on the shoulder and saying, good job, my faithful servant. You know, like I really, really believe that. Another thing too that I've often thought of myself when I'm avoiding the job because I don't feel like working, because we're girls and sometimes we're absolutely pathetic. And I know maybe you might be offended by that, but I know me, and sometimes I'm absolutely pathetic. I often will think, if I was, you know, hiring someone right now, would I hire me as a Mary Kay consultant or director or whatever, right? Would I hire me right now? So I want you to think about maybe your workday today in your Mary Kay job. If you were hiring someone, would you have hired yourself today? And if you can say yes, good job. And if you say no, well, just maybe keep that in mind so that you don't have 2 days where you wouldn't hire yourself. Yeah, that's just kind of one thing that sort of kept me on track. And the last part about, you know, what sort of mindset stuff you can have when you're going through like big time trauma is know that grief and trauma is a process. So you got to love yourself despite it all, you know. Don't expect perfection. I don't know if you guys are like me, but I don't know. I've got this standard for myself that nothing gets me down and I can handle anything. And if I even have one sort of kind of thought, I'm like, what's wrong with me? I've, you know, thought I was better than this, all of that stuff. Bottom line, guys, we're human. We belong to the human race. And you would never expect perfection from anybody else, right? You wouldn't expect perfection from your best friend, would you? Would you expect perfection from your mom? Well, actually, I feel like we have a really high standard for our moms sometimes. I'm not going to use that as an example. But like, would you expect perfection from everybody else in the world? No, but sometimes we expect it from ourselves. So let's just give ourselves a break and often just like, okay, I'm my own best friend, because really, who do you spend more time in the whole world with than you, right? It's you and yourself. And so if you're not being your own best friend, you know, you might want to take a look at that. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I know that I am bad for this. I actually, the other day, I got to tell you this story because it's kind of funny. I actually was going to phone up my counselor and get an appointment. Like, I had these thoughts in my head. I had heard some news about, you know, something going on, and I had a really bad attitude about it. I heard someone that is not a very good person and has hurt me deeply, was having some sort of medical crisis, and I had this like thought, like, it wasn't good. Instead of like, you know, I was asked to pray for this person, I'm like, I'm just going to pray God's will be done. That's what I'm praying. And so I got on the phone and I'm like, that's evil, right? Like, Angela, Dawn, like, that is terrible thinking. What is wrong with you? You better phone your counselor. Like, you were like corrupt to the core. Like, how dare you think that? Like, so I'm getting on my phone and I'm looking for Dennis's number, because I'm sure that he's gonna have to like put like zapper probes right here to just like jolt me out of this terrible, terrible thing. And then I got off and I'm like, chill, Ange. Like, you didn't will them dead. You just willed them God's will be done. Like, you know, we can all have. I can't even believe I told you that. But that's kind of how it goes, right? So we just have to give ourselves a break. And we're a work in progress, and I'm loving that you guys are laughing at me. Okay, so that's kind of my like tips for trauma time and how we sort of get through those. Now let's talk about non-trauma time, because like, is it realistic for you to think that, okay, in trauma, right, like I got to be emotionally like sound and all that sort of stuff, but the rest of the time I am so good, like I don't need any help there? No. I would actually say that when things aren't going too badly, we can sometimes get in our own heads worse, right? So, because when you think about trauma time, it's like you've got like major things going on, whether it be illness or deaths in the family or divorces or unsafe things happen, whatever it might be, right? So we think, okay, deal with the situation. Okay, here's some work. Deal with the situation. Okay, here's some work. And we can really compartmentalize. We can really take our time and be like, okay, I'm going to put those worries and thoughts in a box. And this is what I actually visualize sometimes. Put those worries, those thoughts, that time in a box, put the lid on. It's going up in the closet. I'm going to do my work to make sure that I'm not contributing to my problem by us being broke, because I'm not doing any work, right? And then I'm going to come back to that, right? So I often will visualize just, you know, putting it away, and I'll come back to this. And this is highly effective, especially when you're going to say into a skincare class or one of your unit meetings or something like that, where you just need to be there for the people, right? You got to shut that off, because I mean, you're not going to have the same results if you go in there and you're really having a hard time. And sometimes that's the best thing you can do, because it just gives you a break. And then you come back to it and it doesn't seem maybe as bad as it did before you went, right? So let's talk, yeah, like I said, non-trauma times can be, it can be also difficult because like I said, we as women, we can be powerful and pathetic in the same minute, right? And so we have to remember that we are in charge of our reactions to things. We can't control the world. We can't control what other people think. We can't control what other people do or don't do. We can't control our children. We can't control the weather. We can't control what's happening in the world. You know, we can't control any of that, but what we can control is our reactions to it. And whether we let that get us down or not. And that's something that I think we got to keep in mind. There's going to be times where you're not going to feel like working, like literally who feels like working most days? Nobody. Like I obviously would rather, you know, grab a cup of coffee, put on some Netflix, maybe even stay in my onesie, turn on the fireplace and just chill. But like really that's going to cause some heating issues because I won't be paying the heating bill after a while. So, you know, we're often don't feel like doing the job, but making ourselves accountable to doing what we need to do when we need to do it. And it's just that, again, would you hire yourself? And what are the most important things that you can do? And more importantly than that, what are you working for? When you've got a big goal that you're working for, you don't wake up in the morning and think, should I work today? Maybe not. But if you've got a big goal, you're like, okay, I can do this, this, and this, because this is going to happen. And, you know, and you get that bent on goal. So that's why Mary Kay is brilliant. Mary Kay was brilliant. She was a brilliant woman because she always had these little nuggets for us to earn, like, you know, our star and our, you know, quarter sales ring and our, the consistency B right now. And like all those things, pearls of sharing, the power start, perfect start. She always has these little things because when you have a goal, it gives you something to get up and get going for. And so having the goal, I think one of the things too is I've been really thinking about big, powerful thinking lately. I know that when we crashed out Cadillac and when we crashed out our very first unit club, both of those times, it should not have happened. According to statistics, according to tracking, according to my history in my business, those things absolutely should not have happened. When we did our first unit club, I actually wasn't really focused on unit club, to be honest, until June. That's a really bad time to start focusing on something, by the way. But I actually think that the reason I wasn't focused on it is because I didn't believe in me that our unit was of that level yet. And then we had a pretty good May and I thought, you know what, we're not that far away. Maybe we should try this. And so all of a sudden I had that feeling in me that we're going to do this. I'm going to get me a bar pin. I want a bar pin. Like, you know, when you walk at seminar and you see these ladies and they got bar pins like from like shoulder to nipple and it's like all these bar pins and it's like, oh, I want me a bar pin because to me that felt like success is like right there. So that June, I'm like, okay, we're going to get me a bar pin and our unit is going to be a unit club. Like girls, that makes us a unit club. Like that puts us like near like top units, right? Like not all of the units in Canada are unit club units. So let's us be one. And so it was going good and things were going along and we hit, you know, middle miles, you know, there's halfway through the month or halfway through a goal, you know, that like, oh, this isn't turning out the way I thought. Oh, maybe this isn't for me. And you start justifying whether we're really going to go or we're not. And then you're like, oh no, recommit and away you go. So it's last day. It's like the very last day of June. And I look at our stats and we have 10,000 wholesale left to do. Now let's be real. At that point in my career, 10,000 was a really good month. Really good month. I had to do it in a day. And I thought, uh-oh, what, how do we do that? Like that is way bigger than what you normally do, right? And we're gonna do in one day what we normally do in a month. So should that have happened? No. But I was bent on it happening and I believed it and I worked like it was happening and I called in my girls and I said, okay, we got to phone the rest of the team. we got to see, you know, who's doing what, who's having a party today, who's ordering some stuff for their summer holidays, what we got to do. And at 9:59 p.m., our last 1800 went in and we did Unit Club. And oh my gosh, I couldn't even do the last order. Good thing I had help in my office that day, because you know when you're like, oh, this is actually happening, oh my gosh. I could not even type like quantity 2 in, like I had to hand the reins over to someone else, and we got it done. And it just made me think that that's where I need to be again. That's when magic happens. And it's like, I don't know if you guys have ever read The Secret or watched The Secret movie. If you haven't, I recommend doing it again. It's a good reminder. But to decide what your goal is, visualize with emotion and then work and go for it. Now, when I say visualize with emotion, that's when it's really important to have like all the reminders. You know, if your goal is a director's suit, to have the little swatch that you feel. I've been carrying around this little kind of business card size thing, and it's got my 3 June goals on it. And it's not words, because our mind doesn't remember words, but it remembers pictures, right? So I've got like my 3 goals, and I have it in my jacket pocket because it's cold, it's winter, so I often have my hands in my pocket. And all I have to do is feel it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm working on, right? When you kind of forget that. And we have to know that whatever your subconscious mind thinks is what's actually going to happen, right? So our conscious mind is great, like it's the things that are, you know, we're very aware of. It's the subconscious mind that is developed from our beliefs that actually makes things happen. So what are you telling yourself? Because I like to compare the subconscious mind to like a genie, right? And the genie gives you wishes, and whatever you wish is his command. And so what does your personal self-talk look like? You know, are you like, and okay, this is one that I'm bad for, because I'm not at the fitness level that I was a couple of years ago when I was like a beast at the gym, because I was trying, or a few years ago, I guess, when I was trying to like, I often imagined my ex at the gym, and I just work out hard. He was good for getting me in shape that way. But I'm not there right now. And so oftentimes I'll put stuff in, like stuff on, and I'll look in the mirror and be like, oh, Angie, like, look at that muffin top. Would you say that to your best friend? Then why are you saying it to yourself, right? And so if you're really complimenting your muffin top, your subconscious is going to continue to build it. Do you want that? No. So stop it. So I've been doing more I am statements, right? So and they got to be good ones, guys. Not I am the queen of muffin tops. That's not going to help you, but like, I am strong, I am powerful, I am beautiful, I work with focus, I'm a woman of integrity, I'm a woman of my word, and I actually have an I am affirmations recording that I listen to all night long, just because the subconscious is whatever you put into your mind 20 minutes before you go to sleep is what your brain works on all night long to build your subconscious. So I used to fall asleep because I had a hard time sleeping. This was years back. And I would have a hard time sleeping, but I'm really good at sleeping in front of the TV. And I had a secret, sort of like, my dirty little secret was I love Jersey Shore. And so I would watch that terrible stuff right before I went to bed. Well, what is my subconscious thinking of all night long? That's terrible, right? I didn't know though. Like, so I don't do that anymore. Put some really good stuff in before you go to sleep. Really good. So I am statements, meditation, even things that are going to help build you, not make you question the morals of the world. So don't go to bed after watching Jersey Shore. So I am statements are the kind of thing that I'm going to bet you. And look at time it is. It's already 6, or my time is up. So building those powerful statements and speaking as though your goal is already done. Right? I am looking fit and fine on our Scotland trip, right? Like, what are the things, you know, and just actually sitting back and visualizing them to be true. Like, actually, okay, I'm getting on the plane because we are going on the top director trip. Oh my gosh. And Raven's in the next seat. And I'm pretty sure Carol's back there because I can hear her laughing. And all that stuff, right? I think we're picking up Nadia at the next stop, right? Like all of that sort of thing is actually feeling that. What is it like? And I remember when I was going for Cadillac, that was the thing. It was like, I could smell that car, and I would drive that in my mind, and I would be waving and honking the horn. I've never waved and honked the horn as much as I did in my mind before I got one. I remember like imagining going up to the people who said I couldn't and sort of ripping up their lawn a little bit. And I never ever did that, but it really helped me to visualize while I was going through it, right? But it was just like, visualizing and speaking it into yourself so that you keep this in check. And for those days that you're really struggling with that, that's when you need to reach up to your director or your mentor or your coach or whoever it may be. We always reach up. We don't phone our team members and say, oh, I'm just struggling. I don't know if I want this, because you are the best Mary Kay they know. And if you're reaching down and talking about your, pity party and all that stuff that we know is temporary, but they don't know that it's temporary, we reach out. So those are kind of my little nuggets. I know I've gone over time. I'm sorry about that. I just love talking to you guys. I'm just going to check here who I didn't add to my list, and I'm going to make Vanessa, I want you to, oh, there's Patricia. I want you to turn on your volume because I'm going to have you make the draw.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm putting in orders here, numbers. Okay. Number between 1 and 7 is what I see on here, because we're not going to pick Raven.
3.
Oh, sorry, 8. 3?
Yeah.
Christine is the winner. So send me your, Christine, send me your, look me up on Facebook and send me your address so I can send you a little treat in the mail. All right. So I guess that this is the last call before Christmas. And so I'll get to see you guys next year. And we will connect with you next year. And we have lots of months left. Please don't think that your Mary Kay work is done for the month, because it absolutely is not. Some of the most profitable days that you can have this entire year end before December 31st ends. People get money for Christmas. So never forget that time between Christmas and New Year's, because it can be money-making time. And we're going into, I don't know where you live, but I know in the prairies here, we're going into the cold, wicked, it's the cold, and women need help with their skin at that time. We're also New Year coming up. New Year, new look. So it's a really good thing to, just talk to women. These patches are really kind of transforming my business, because since I've been using them, people have been saying things like, oh my gosh, your skin looks so good, and all that sort of stuff. Actually, get this one. My 16-year-old stepson to be asked me on the way home. We went to for a conference, and one of my sisters was there, and he knows my other sister and brother and all that sort of stuff. On the way home, he's like, Angie, what's your order of your family? I forgot. And I'm like, well, I'm the oldest, and then my brother, and they're like, he was like, what? I thought you were the youngest. You look really like a lot younger than your siblings. I'm like, yeah, I do. And now you're my favorite kid in the whole world. But that's the kind of thing. You're going to run into people who are seeing people over the holidays, and all of a sudden they're feeling like they look old. And that's your key. That is where you can make the big difference, right? So be ready for those opportunities. They're coming your way. That's what you can say in your affirmations and your statements every day, is like, business is tracking me down. Women are looking for me to help them look younger. And those things will happen when you put them out there. So thank you for being here tonight. I love our business, and I love that I can be connected with people like you all over Canada. And have a very, very Merry Christmas. And we will see you in 2020. Take care, everyone.